welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet and the man in your mirror. I am your host, the assassin with the heart of gold, Thor, and I'm joined this week by my wonderful alter ego, the brains to my brawn, Stephan.
Hello, it's me.
We're gonna be talking about Moon Knight today. It's well, I think it's pretty good.
I think it's the best MCU show so far.
Before we get into the meat of that, I want to roll through a little segment I like to call the rundown, talking about things that either we're going through currently or stuff that might not make an entire show's worth of conversation, but that we've experienced. I know I've seen a few movies, been rewatching through a couple of shows. How about you? Anything currently?
Me and our good friend Jesse Nowak have been going through Buffy and Angel, two of my favorite shows ever.
I caught like a few episodes here and there when I was like a kid, but it was a show that I didn't stick to. What makes it so good in your mind?
Well, I don't know. Buffy is a show that let me get this out of the way. Joss Whedon fucking sucks as a human being. He's a bad person. But other people worked on the show, and they're not bad people, as far as I know. So, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a show that just makes me happy. And it's a great genre-bending show. It's a show that's not afraid to be a comedy a lot.
Right.
But doesn't brand itself as comedy. But it's an action comedy show.
Just lets itself be naturally funny.
Yeah,
as its plot's moving.
It was doing it before other people did it. It does it better than most other shows. And it's to this day, Jesse's watching it for the first time, but knowing very little, and he's constantly shocked at how well it does. 20 years before, and it was the blueprint, and people did the blueprint first afterwards. For example, LGBT. There's a prominent lesbian couple. And the one thing Jesse knows, small spoiler here, is that one of the members of the couple dies at one point. Which some people say is sort of one of the progenitors of the barrier gaze, where a gay character is quickly killed off. But the thing is, in Buffy, the character does die, but they're on the show for 3 seasons, and the actual rep of showing the relationship are more progressive than many shows that came after it,
right?
Up until now, when that rep's getting
right.
And Jesse was underestimating how well the show is going to treat the character. So it's very ahead of its time in that reason. Shows like Lost and our current version of TV around. First shows I know of that has that.
Right.
That has to catch you up on what's.
I don't feel like we have a lot of those. Not since Supernatural did. I don't really know what the primetime network television lineup is, other than W's slate of DC shows.
Yeah, I mean, well, and there's a dearth of supernatural monster of the week shows, stuff that I personally am really connected to. I really love the first 5 seasons of Supernatural, specifically those seasons, and I really love Buffy and Angel. And since those shows have been around and ended, nothing's really filled that void.
Right.
Which, I think about a lot.
It's a fun show concept. I mean, even the later seasons of Supernatural, they'd still have a couple good episodes a season. There's one that I remember in one of the later seasons where it's just it's a bottle episode where it takes place all inside the car. And it's honestly one of my favorite episodes of that show.
When a show can just have magic stuff happen, and there's rules obviously,
yeah.
But a lot of things can happen as long as you follow the rules. And you get stuff like Buffy popularized the musical episode, and
right.
Also did it better than everyone else, I would say. Jesse was also noting that he's seen many musical episodes after Buffy, and he didn't even know Buffy had one until he watched it. And he was shocked at how well it did it compared to other shows.
Right on.
So yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, highly recommended by me. One of my favorite shows, period. So.
All right, I might have to check it out at some point. For me, have you seen The Northman?
No.
I like it. I like it a lot. It is I mean, it's Robert Eggers, so you're getting like, you know, his style on things. He did like The Lighthouse and The Witch. Have you seen either of those?
I saw The Lighthouse somewhat recently. I thought it was all right. It doesn't hit me personally in a way that I think it hits other people, but it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, no, I just absolutely love Willem Dafoe in that, and honestly, it's what really gave me hope for Robert Pattinson as Batman. I'm like, oh no, this guy, you know, he's got chops. He's much more well-rounded than he's been presented in.
He's stuck in a room with the Joker. He's like, you fought!
You fought! Stop fighting! God, you goddamn fought!
Oh, you fighting! I'm the Batman!
And the fucking like, man, just Willem Dafoe's monologue, his soliloquy in that is just holy shit.
Or the Poseidon one?
Yes.
He's like, oh,
He's really good about doing like accurate period pieces, like something that just feels right for the tone that he's shooting. And The Northman is this very Shakespearean revenge tale. I'd say it's like Hamlet if it were a heavy metal cover, you know? Like, there's some like brutal shit. Like, you know, it's May the 4th, Star Wars Day. There's this fight near the end where they're just fighting in this like while a volcano's erupting. It's like a significantly more brutal version of the fight on Mustafar. It's got all this amazing shit, and it's also way up its own ass with how pretentious it is.
Oh, cool.
But in all the ways that I kind of enjoy in a movie.
Sometimes I enjoy, like when people say like Green Knight's pretentious, I'm like, yeah, and that's why it's fun. Sometimes I like a little pretentious bullshit.
Yeah, I'd compare it to Green Knight. I think I like this better than Green Knight personally, but that's just my flavor. And it really helps if you have any knowledge of Norse mythology going into it, because it doesn't like to explain any of its imagery, and it's all very heavily tuned to the Norse mythology.
Yeah, that's also similar to Green Knight, where like Green Knight has a lot of deep cuts for Arthurian legend stuff, but if you don't come in already knowing that stuff, you're really not going to pick them up. So I know the two different directors. David Lowery, I believe, is Green Knight, but.
Yeah, but I highly recommend Northman. I think Northman was great. Another fun one. I saw the new Nick Cage movie. I think it's called like The Unbearable Weight of Immeasurable Talent or something like that. A lot of fun. I mean, if you like Nick Cage movies, you'll almost certainly like this. I
haven't seen a modern one in a long time. I'm waiting on that one where he's playing Dracula to come out, because I desperately want to see him play a vampire again.
So you haven't seen Mandy?
I've not seen Mandy. I've not seen Pig. I've not seen any of the modern ones, really.
Mandy's fucking great, and they even like kind of like touch on it in the movie, because I mean, basic synopsis is he goes to visit this cartel lord, and he's a huge fan of Nick Cage, and he has this like room full of like props and stuff, and he's like looking around. Is that the chainsaw from Mandy? Oh, Mandy's a classic. Yeah, really underappreciated. It's just fucking great. And Pedro Pascal, who I'm liking more and more the more I see him and stuff. Manages to match Nick Cage's energy and, you know, even compliment it so much. I think it's a really fun movie. Whereas The Northman is a very kind of like dour experience that you can laugh at if you have a sick, dark sense of humor, but still enjoy as a piece of media. This is much more you're going in there and you're going to have a good time watching it kind of situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Those are the things that I've been wanting to talk about, but I know I'm probably not going to have a good chance to. So those are my recommendations if you're going to a theater and not seeing Doctor Strange this weekend, I guess.
Yeah, for me it's just been Buffy. I've been obsessively re-experiencing Buffy, and it's always fun for me. So I do it every couple of years. Right
on. But with that, let's move on to the meat of today's discussion. Let's talk about Moon Knight.
All right, so what about Moon Knight?
I don't know. For some reason, I thought I was in a Red Letter Media video for a second where you'd cut to like something, and then
no, we don't do that.
No, we don't do that here.
We're too heavy editing.
Way too much effort to put in.
Our editors are busy. Me being one of the editors,
and Kaiser being the other.
Something.
Oh,
what are you gonna do?
So let's talk about Moon Knight.
There, now you're backwards.
Moon Knight. I'm the man in the mirror. Perfect.
Whoa.
My first thoughts on Moon Knight were essentially that holy shit, Oscar Isaac was super underappreciated and like super underutilized in the Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah,
because he's really fucking good in this.
I remember they're gonna kill him off. So this is like that was them course correcting. We're like, oh, we can't get rid of this.
No, he's good. He's really good.
He does a great job in this show. Like some question why he would even come back to Disney after what was a
they probably have him under like contract for like a certain number of pictures maybe.
No, like
they don't do that
he
anymore.
made a choice to come back for this role.
Well, he's listed as an executive producer, so he had probably some say in how this stuff was going.
Yeah, apparently he got a call from Kevin Feige and he liked this idea specifically, and he maybe was guaranteed that Disney would not meddle.
Okay.
Given what happened with the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the problems with the Star Wars stuff had a lot to do with Bob Iger saying, just keep pumping out Star Wars. You got to keep making a movie every other year.
We need this. We need this now. We just spent X billion on this. We need it.
Yeah, and that backfired big time, which Bob Iger actually admitted to.
Yeah.
But
hey, he's gone now. So.
Yeah, he's gone. Now we got Chapek. Everybody loves Chapek.
Yeah, he's doing
I want a career.
corporate America.
I want a career, so I'll be quiet.
He's doing a wonderful job.
But no, Moon Knight's really good. And honestly, to me, it is like the best MCU show so far.
I would agree.
In large part because it's its own thing, and right now that is a breath of fresh air. Because I'll be honest, I'm not super looking forward to Doctor Strange 2. I'm sure it'll be a good movie, but like after No Way Home, I am so fucking burned out on everything being multiverses and
they're just introducing this concept. So
yeah, guest stars and I'm already fucking tired of it. Like I want other things, and Moon Knight being its own self-contained, it could just not be in the MCU for us all.
It really doesn't pay any service to any of the other MCU stuff.
And I love that.
Other than the fact that some people recognize superheroes exist, because there's a line like, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?"
Yeah,
it's like, okay, yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah,
that was a nice little moment. Because I should note the main director of the show. I don't know about the writing, but the main director of the show is also an Egyptian person.
That's good. That's one thing that Disney does try to do is they in recent years, like the last couple of decades, they've tried to be more culturally sensitive and giving, if they're doing something about a particular culture, they'll involve more people that have been raised through that culture in its production.
I don't remember the director's name, so I shouldn't try for it.
Right.
Yeah, I saw his name a couple times in the credits, and I thought the directing of the show has been very good. Like, visually also, the show really stands out among the MCU stuff of being more, it feels more like an actual...
an actual unique...
piece of art.
Yeah.
Like it's all art. Like, artists are working on them very hard, but this one felt a lot more like a show to me and not like a product. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And when a lot of the other shows have felt like there's been good stuff. I really liked the visual aesthetic of Loki in a lot of ways, but it still felt kind of like a product, a good product, but a product. And
yeah, with Loki, it felt like they're trying to serve you up hey, here's the concept that we're going to be pushing forward with the next batch of movies.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Moon Knight is just trying to be a singular good story, and it's got a whole lot of Hollywood polish, but it still feels like it's not trying to be a product. It's trying to be a story, and that's a big distinction for me that makes me far more invested in it than I have been in the other MCU shows.
And I think the editing of it really goes to help sell that, especially early on when, Stephen is trying to figure out what's going on with him. They cut it in such a unique and interesting way that really, the show plays a lot with the concept of dissociative identity disorder.
Which I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of this, but I've heard and read a few things about people saying it's relatively accurate for Hollywood depictions of DID.
Yeah, I did some studies on it in college because it's such a unique disorder.
Yeah,
a unique condition that it's fascinating to kind of study on. And psychology was one of my if you're an actor, you either love psychology or you just like acting, and for me, psychology was a big part of that. So. Yeah, just the way they depict it and the cutting and the flash of oh, okay, now where am I? What's happening? And that he has this confusion in him that he wakes up every morning. He makes sure he's tied to his own bed because as far as he knows, he's a werewolf. He leaves sand scattered at the foot of his bed to see okay, any footprints? And no, he's just dealing with the fact that there is another persona in his body that occupies it when he is not around, and dealing with lost time, and just the way they edit it and present it is really cool.
By the way, are we discussing spoilers now, or are we holding off? Or is this a spoiler discussion?
We can hold off on spoilers. That's kind of the generic concept that they give you both in the trailers and in the first episode.
Yeah,
so
I'm just making sure what I say isn't going to step on that. Sorry.
All good?
Yeah, I found it interesting. I find the framing of particularly the first episode very interesting, but they kind of keep it going throughout and tease you with it more, and it really works as a format and a framing device. and keeps your interest in keeps it from being standard, which is very important. I also really like the sort of adventure aspect of sort of Stephen Sommers' Mummy adventure aspect of the piece. That was really fun.
Because Egypt is such a unique location too. We haven't gotten a lot of media since that. The Brendan Fraser Mummy movies and then the Tom Cruise one that I don't think anybody saw.
Yeah, but that wasn't an adventure film. That was an action film.
Yes, that was much more of an action film. But I'm just talking about using Egypt as your location in general. It's got such a unique aesthetic to it. X-Men Apocalypse, I think, also used Egypt, but not really.
And who did that star as the villain?
Oh, yeah.
It's Oscar Isaac, not an Egyptian guy. He's being...
God, you don't even recognize him in that. He's just so...
He's blue, yeah. No one gave a shit when they cast him.
And they mixed his voice, so he's all filtered.
Yeah, I was one of those things where you may as well have not hired Oscar Isaac, because...
May as well just hired any voice actor, because...
Because he didn't get to do anything in that role.
Not really. But such a... Goddamn.
But he got to do a lot in this role, including points where you watch him switch between the two different personalities. Mm-hmm. And I was watching with my dad and my family, and my dad was like, "Wow, that was crazy!"
He puts on a fucking clinic. Yeah, when you see the look in his eye change, and it's ooh, that is acting.
Yeah, and I wonder if he studied, if he talked to people who experienced it. I don't know what research he did. But clearly, I feel like the writers must have done some genuine psychological research to try and not be offensive in their depiction.
Yeah.
Because it seems like this has actually avoided a lot of the tropes.
And I haven't heard any blowback in that regard. I don't keep my ear that out for controversy, but...
I'll say, even if there was blowback, unfortunately, it might get it. So there might be some I haven't noted, but
we don't deal with that condition. So obviously, anybody who has feelings, they're yours to have.
And unfortunately, some people might get ignored if they are complaining. Unfortunately, so if that is out there, I would like to know. But I've heard some rumblings that it, relative to how other people have portrayed it, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. What was a more recent version of this Split, I think, was the next one back.
Yeah, and that was highly offensive to people. It's any version of it that portrays the splitting as inherently making someone dangerous, making them violent,
right,
tends to be not great, because most mentally ill people are not dangerous people, not violent people, if they're generally a danger to anyone themselves. In many cases, so people. There's obviously the rare occasion. Yeah, people get really upset when people with mental disorders or disabilities are portrayed as dangerous.
Batman villains.
Yes, that upsets them, and rightfully so. It's not cool. There's that, and often they're you have a Doom Patrol, I believe, has a character that has a personality, that gives them superpowers, and they.
Have you seen Doom Patrol?
I've seen the pilot. The pilot didn't grab me. Doesn't mean the show wasn't good.
The show, honestly, I agree. The pilot's kind of, but I just kind of sat through it, and man, that show kind of hooks you after a bit.
I heard it gets better. All I saw was the pilot.
It does all this crazy, high concept sci-fi bullshit that I love.
But yeah, when it comes to DID and particularly superhero stuff, it's often portrayed as a super, some way to access superpowers. And here it's just, he just has superpowers and is also dealing with this, which is a much more nuanced version of that kind of story, where it kind of enhances him in a way, but not because it makes him superpowered.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, and that's actually a common critique that I've heard from a lot of people. Taka specifically, I was talking to about this, and he was like, "Man, I really like the show, but I feel like I missed a season or something like that, because the one trope that he drove on was I hate it when heroes lose their powers, and I feel like we're running into a guy who's already at that stage." And it's yeah, but the show isn't really about him being a superhero. Granted, there's a huge chunk of that in there, but it's about his struggle with his mental state. And that to me is far more interesting.
Yeah, well, and it seems also that was just a good time to make sure there were stakes in the next segment.
Exactly.
Mostly on the mystery. And make sure that they have to run away from threats instead of just beat them up. So I get why it was there. I can see how that might be kind of annoying, but I thought they narratively justified it very well. They created consequences for doing certain things.
Yeah, I just think it's to me, it's more intelligent, I think, because
it's very structurally sound.
Yes. One of the other critiques I found when I think from like a couple of Twitter replies, one specifically jumped out to me as, what some general audiences might think. Their quote was, "To me, it just felt every episode felt like waiting for the Power Rangers to transform for however long." It's like, I can understand that critique, but that's not why I'm watching the show,
Yeah, people said that about Iron Man 3, too.
Yeah.
They're like, he's not in the suit enough. It's like, I don't give a fuck about the suit. Like, the only thing that actually keeps me watching Marvel movies is not superhero shit. It's the characters.
Yeah, you get to look at cool superhero shit, but
if the characters aren't good, I don't give a shit. Like, personally, like that, and I think the MCU understands, like Kevin Feige in particular, understands that that's the main draw. That's why the huge fans of the MCU, they don't say Captain America, they don't say Iron Man, they say Steve, they say Tony, they say Bruce, they say Peter for Peter Parker, and like
they have no choice but to say Thor. But
yeah, and how many people complain about Peter Parker having to deal with his normal life? Rarely, because like that's built into the character, and many people call
it's the
Spider-Man
compelling
Peter.
Yeah, it's the compelling part of Spider-Man.
Yeah, like so, like I don't know, superheroes are fun. Them doing superhero action is fun. But if the characters aren't solid and we don't care about them, I don't give a shit about the superhero stuff. So I really enjoyed not doing, like, being careful about when they're using the superhero.
And I feel like in the first few episodes, they use it like very sparingly and always to good effect. Like when you finally get a reveal of the suit, I think in episode 2, maybe even episode 3.
It's the end of episode 1.
It was at the end of episode 1? Okay, well, by the time you actually get to it, it's like, okay, cool, now we're here.
Yeah.
And then you're left with this mystery of, okay, so who's the dominant personality? What is actually happening here? What's with the bird?
And interestingly, like my own reaction to that was just like when I saw the superhero suit, part of me was a little disappointed because I was enjoying what the show was up to that point. But luckily, like they kept that going while keeping the superhero thread going, so I wasn't actually disappointed once we kept going in the series.
Yeah. When it comes to Moon Knight itself, what kind of exposure did you have to the character before this show?
Basically none. I thought he was just crazy. Not actually using that term, just the derogatory Batman. That was my conception of him. Now I like the character a lot more given this portrayal.
Yeah, I knew literally nothing about Moon Knight going into this. Well, except for the fact that Moon Knight existed, my exposure to Moon Knight came specifically and solely from probably Ultimate Marvel, like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 game where he's a playable character. Like, oh, he looks kind of cool. But they don't really go into his character or do anything unless you go into like the biography section. So that was literally all I ever really knew about Moon Knight.
Yeah, this is my first exposure to Moon Knight. So I don't care if he's accurate or not. I like this version. So
yeah, no, this is a good version, and you could tell me that this is how he is in the comics, and I'd be like, yeah, no, that makes sense to me. This is a compelling character that I could see why people would like him.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I don't know if the sorry, I was gonna go into spoilers.
Honestly, I feel like we've talked a lot about the show to the point where obviously people get that we enjoy it and understand what we like about it.
Yeah, and if you haven't liked the other MCU shows, this might be a good one for you if you do want to enjoy just a good superhero show.
Yeah, I think this is easily the best one that Disney Plus has put out so far.
I never saw Legion, but if you liked Legion, this might be more up your alley.
Honestly, I might put the early seasons of Legion ahead of this, but
it's
Legion's
the same
good.
vein,
yeah,
right?
Like it plays more with like the psychological
It's an exploration of a character.
Yeah, Legion is a fucking trip. If you want to, like, if you got Hulu, I definitely recommend checking out Legion.
I've always considered watching Legion. I just never got around to it. But from what I can understand, this is more up that alley than it is the other MCU shows. So.
Legion is way more pretentious in all the fun ways that I like. So, but yeah, from this point on, Moon Knight spoilers.
See, I had already like figured out the thing about that there was a third more violent personality.
Yeah,
but I liked how it was seeded. Mm-hmm. Like it's a good twist in that you can easily see it coming, but still learning about the personality is interesting and who they are. It seems like they're using Oscar Isaac's heritage for this third character. I don't know if this character exists in the comics or not.
It's possible that you're looking at a scenario like. They're obviously teasing the question, like, how many of them are there in there now? But it would make sense if there are 3 where, there's Mark, who's the main body, who's, created Steven in order to cope with his childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And then in a moment of extreme violence, like do or die you need to fucking end this. He created.
He dissociates again,
Yeah.
and another personality splinters off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I noticed it was when Mark and Stephen were like in conflict, it would show up a lot.
Especially when they're already in danger, and the third person is just like, get the fuck out of the way, I'm dealing with this.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that reveal at the end. And I liked it. Honestly, I liked taking that character off the table, the Ethan Hawke character. He played his part.
Yeah, he was really good.
He did
Ethan
a
Hawke
good
was
job.
really good, but I do not see him
Texas
going any.
guy.
Yeah, I do not see him going any further than this. Like in the.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like the kind of MCU villain where it's like, oh no, we need to build a franchise around Ethan Hawke, the Crocodile Man. Just
Yeah. No, yeah, he felt like that character would have been watered down if he had continued any further. So
Yeah.
taking him off the board was a good idea. And yeah, revealing that like Mark and Steven aren't the Moon Knight anymore, but this dude still is, and
Yeah,
he
this guy-
seems way more fucked up.
But that does mean that the spirit is still tied to them in some way, so it leaves it open for that ambiguous, like, oh, but what do they do from here?
And did you notice he was probably the one who was in the third coffin?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hinted at that in the, I think, like the previously on Moon Knight thing from today's episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I skipped through that part. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And it's good. It's a good next season hook. And I would actually like to like to see another season of this. I should note also, I don't know if Layla's new, but I really liked Layla.
She was great.
And I think it was a very good idea. Like Oscar Isaac playing a superhero based on Egyptian mythology.
And
He's not an Egyptian man.
Having an actual Egyptian actress come in.
person
And,
to come in. And
yeah.
they had that cute moment of, are you an Egyptian superhero?
Like, yeah.
Yes. And like,
And her outfit looks sick too. Like I love the
Yeah.
golden wings and like the daggers.
yeah, and that god seems much nicer.
Yeah, the hippo lady. Hippo lady was
Yeah.
great.
Well, what was that one's name? I forget.
I don't know my
I remember
Egyptian
Colin
gods.
Shu, and
Yeah.
I remember
The two,
Yeah.
yeah, those two. I know Anubis. I know Set. I know, yeah.
Yeah, and then we haven't seen a lot of the big boys, like the big Egyptian gods. I don't know
Yeah,
if
we
they're leaving
we saw
that.
like some avatars, but
Yeah.
never really. I think one of them was Osiris, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like they said they weren't warriors, so I'm not sure, but yeah, it was interesting. I wonder if they'll reveal more Egyptian gods and stuff as the show goes on.
yeah, depending on if this show gets its own sequel season or like if they tie it in with something.
It certainly will get
I think it should because I think it's good enough to.
And every time it comes out, like I see talk about it on Twitter constantly, so that's usually a good sign that the show's doing well.
Yeah.
If people want to be conversing about it, which I'll just say real quick, just as like an industry thing. This is why like Netflix should have abandoned the binge model
culture.
a long time ago, because it's proven to be detrimental to their shows.
Yeah, it's problematic because on one hand it's like, man, I really love just being able to sit down and binge something, but on the other
There's no
hand,
conversation.
yeah,
and
you
can't
don't
keep the hype up, and it's bad for the shows to not have that momentum.
Yeah, you can't talk about Stranger Things with somebody unless somebody else is already up to where you're at, because if somebody just sits down and watches it over the weekend but somebody's only up to like episode 3, it's like, okay, where can I actually start this combo?
Well, and I never caught up to Stranger Things because like people talk about Stranger Things for a day and then it's
then
gone,
don't-
and I don't feel a need to be a part of it, like be a part of the conversation, which is a large reason to try and watch a show for a lot of people. Is you want to see what everyone's talking about, you want to be a part of a cultural experience that's happening. Frankly, particularly during the pandemic, that was really valuable for the other MCU shows.
Yes,
People got to
was
interact with each other and talk about something that they were passionate about. That was a big deal. And Netflix's model of binging, there's a reason no one else is doing it. It's because it sucks for the shows.
Yeah, it worked for them in the beginning when they were the only game in town, and I know they've been trying weekly releases. Like I know they did that for Arcane, and I think
it worked for Arcane.
It worked very well for Arcane.
Like,
Even though I waited until it was all out and binged it, but still.
But still, you saw people talking about it constantly. Like, and would Arcane have hit as well if it weren't weekly?
Probably not.
Like, yeah, like because like House of Cards, I fell hard off House of Cards for multiple reasons, but also because the binge model just makes like, oh, new season of House of Cards out, I might get to that, and then I never think about it again until the next season comes out, and then you're multiple seasons behind.
It's the same reason. Like I started Narcos, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good, and then you fall off, and it's like, I kind of forgot about that.
And then there's so much, and the conversation's already over. So, and there's other shows that people are talking about right now that you'd rather watch.
Yeah, like I'm watching through the current season of Better Call Saul. It's like, okay, I'm doing better now.
Yeah, so like it's one of those things where it's just like, like Netflix recently like made he axed a whole bunch of animated shows.
Yeah.
Like mid-production. I'm mutuals and follow like a lot of animators on Twitter, and they're fucking devastated. And like it feels like a thing that could have been avoided had they not stuck to like a very flawed business model.
Yeah, I mean, on that end, you can look at Netflix and just say, like, maybe, like, because it was an industry-wide joke for a long time where it's like, yeah, no, just go to Netflix with your idea. They'll greenlight it and give you $1 million. It's like, maybe slow down a little there. Just
yeah, and now, like, it was all about just pumping out content.
Yeah, because, like, throwing, pointing a shotgun at a dartboard, every now and again, you're going to hit the bullseye.
Yeah, and, like, I'm not saying Disney's amazing because they're not. They're a giant corporation. They have money to throw at these shows, but they're smarter about how they're sending these shows out to the world.
They've been doing this forever. Disney is an empire for a reason. They know what they're doing when it comes to business. Like their vertical integration is something that I think could be studied forever in how well they have mixed their empire.
Yeah, and maybe to the point where maybe there needs to be a little bit of regulation in there.
Possibly, at least in terms of media consolidation.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where like HBO knows what they're doing with like HBO Max is catching on better than people expected it to because
I love HBO Max.
I have it and because people keep getting shows they want to watch and they come out weekly, so people talk.
And there
about
are a bunch of old shows that you still love. Like I'll still go back and re-binge The Wire or The Sopranos or Silicon Valley, which I'm currently re-binging.
Yeah, so like I don't know, the stuff that's working is partially working because of the weekly model, I think.
Because it keeps you going back to the app.
Yeah. Like Paramount Plus not doing so well because what do they have? Halo?
Yeah, and
Star Trek,
it's all right.
Which Trekkies, and Trekkies or Trekkers will like, be really into the Star Trek shows, but like that's a niche that they're really leaning into.
And then they have The Office and Parks and Rec and The Good Place. So it's like, okay, you still have these classics.
Yeah, but
Scrubs,
like it's not.
I can't remember.
The Office and Parks and Rec are on Peacock.
Oh, Peacock. That's what I'm thinking.
That's the thing. Like
God, there are so many
stuff that are not like Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, and Netflix.
I forgot that
don't
Paramount
have enough.
Yeah, I forgot that Paramount and Peacock were different.
The two different companies. Yeah.
Shit. Oh man.
Yeah, Paramount has all the Nickelodeon stuff and Star Trek.
Nah. Yeah, Moon Knight being released on a weekly schedule, I think definitely helped it.
Beneficial. Yeah. And that's just one of my own like pet peeves right now, like particularly with Netflix, like they're fucking over all these shows, like because people get a show on Netflix, and Netflix has the show now. So if Netflix decides mid-production to stop making the show, that these people are fucked. Their ideas are fucked. Their shows that they care very much about are gone. That sucks.
Because Netflix has the rights.
Yeah. So that just and I've been thinking about it a lot because it happened recently. It's kind of a bummer, but. And yeah, like Disney's, making a bunch of franchise stuff, so it's not the same situation, but it's still one of those things where I think people need to pay attention to how they're rolling shows out because that's equally as important as what they're rolling out.
Yeah. In terms of like, episode per episode, I think Moon Knight has been very solid throughout, and the tone has always and this, I think helps a lot for me being not a child. The fact that it has that kind of like darker psychological tone, and episode 4, I think it was, even kind of turns into this like horror movie for a while, where they're like,
where they're trying to stay away from like the mummified dudes. I really enjoyed that. I think 6 episodes is a nice sweet spot for these shows because it gives you a 3-act structure. You get 2 episodes per act, and it's just a very nice spread. And like Moon Knight might be the first show. I think Loki also didn't have like a full-on dud episode, but like Moon Knight in particular has no duds in my opinion.
Yeah,
like every episode is interesting.
We can go back and talk about like Supernatural, for example.
Yeah.
How there's
filler episodes.
There are a lot of filler episodes. Some of them are good, like that bottle episode I was talking about is a filler episode. But there are so many of them that most of them are just kind of okay. That happened, I guess. Yeah. So few of those episodes move forward the plot, and I think
and not everything needs to, but something
needs to.
Sometimes I believe every episode of the show should at least move forward character. Which
it should have something of substance.
Which, like back to Buffy, that's one of the strengths of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well. It's like it did have like the whole 20-something episode seasons, but nearly every episode at least does something for the characters, if not the plot.
Yeah,
that's important.
But I think what is really good that I feel like, and hopefully is going to continue to be recognized, is there is so much shit out there vying for everybody's attention that you can't expect somebody to commit to like 12 to 20 episodes of, Moon Knight in a row.
If people run into 2 episodes of a show that make them, that don't really grab them, they're probably gone.
Yeah.
Like the attention spans are not where they're used to because there's so many choices. They can just move on. Which I don't think is like people don't have the same attention spans anymore. It's just that, like you said, there's so many things vying for attention that people can just move on to something that they might like better now.
Yeah.
They're not really trapped on 6 channels or whatever.
Like I don't know about you, but I have this like kind of cycle. It's not a strict cycle, but in terms of like, which streaming service I turn on first. It's like, okay, I know that I'm watching through this, so I'm gonna pop on Netflix first. And then sometimes like, okay, Prime Video, I've been watching something on there. And then there's, HBO Max, because there's something on there that I'm watching. And it feels like it's very cyclical for me. Like I keep bouncing between these platforms more consistently. Yeah,
and I think it really helps the Disney Plus platform that they do have a lot of things on there already, but their shows are kind of spread out.
Yes.
Like in terms of new content for their TV shows.
Yeah, because the next new thing we're getting is Obi-Wan, I think on like the 25th this month.
Right. So like their shows are they don't inundate you with stuff constantly. Like they kind of keep one major show per platform on their platform at a time. And like for again Netflix, right? Like they have tons of shit, but I just canceled my subscription. Not due to any like protests or anything. I just didn't have that shit I cared about. There's just too much.
It's probably going to get to that point where it's like, okay, I need to start cycling out which ones I'm paying for and which ones I consistently go for, because it's like a gym membership for most of these streaming services. Most people just buy the gym membership and then they eventually stop going, but they forget to cancel. And that's the way a lot of these streaming services are like, yeah, no, we're doing that.
Yeah. And like, right now I personally have Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and HBO Max.
See, I got Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon Prime. I mean, shipping. I got it for the shipping, but hey, I'll take the benefits with it. I got YouTube Premium because I don't like ads, but I still like supporting everybody on there.
I do have that. I just don't watch any of the shows.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch any of the YouTube shows either, but it's just nice to have it without ads, and the music at the gym is useful.
Yeah.
So if you want to support us without watching ads, go ahead, get YouTube Premium, I guess. I don't know. This is not sponsored. Netflix, HBO Max. I think that's it, but I might have another one.
But yeah, like, and I think it's a weird benefit to just not have too many shows happening at once.
Yes. And it's good that like so many services are able to kind of like avoid each other in this schedule too. Like, I don't know if they're like worried about the competition.
I'd be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when Moon Knight comes out, I wouldn't want to be the show that's opposite them in like the.
Yeah, because I think that's Halo. Honestly, like.
At least you don't want to be the same day, bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like Halo. I saw people talk about the pilot of Halo, and that's it.
I've heard like nothing about it really.
I heard the pilot sucked. Like that's like and like maybe the show's all right, but no one's talking about it.
Anybody out there watched it? You could let us know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably not going to get Paramount Plus. But...
Yeah, Mark Swint is the biggest. Our friend Mark is the biggest Halo fan I know. He doesn't give a shit about that show. Like, and yeah, it's just I don't know what did that show? What's Paramount Plus not doing that some these other platforms are doing? Because like I didn't really care about Peacemaker until Peacemaker was out.
Yeah, well, it helped that Suicide Squad was that captivating.
I loved that movie. So that did help, but like I still wasn't that interested in Peacemaker until the intro was shown on Twitter and stuff, and then I started caring about Peacemaker. Like, oh, okay, I like that tone.
That song in a lot of Wigwam's discography is now on my workout mix because of that, honestly.
But yeah, I just gotta wonder, like, yeah, obviously Disney has their money behind it.
Yes,
but HBO Max not really pumping that much into promotion as far as I can tell compared to like these other streaming platforms, but I'm still finding shows on there all the time. Like, and anytime Euphoria is airing, everyone's talking about Euphoria. And so like it's not just franchise shit like Peacemaker. It's weird little A24 produced TV shows. Like
Which I feel like when it comes to HBO Max versus Disney Plus, I feel like HBO focuses much more on the production itself. Like they aren't trying to build a franchise.
I mean, we'll see what they focus on in the coming future because of the merger. But
true, very true. But I mean, like they have something that they feel like they have a franchise with Game of Thrones, with the House of the Dragon. Who fucking knows?
We'll say.
But they typically just tend to like go with like, oh yeah, no, that's a good idea. Here, we'll produce that, make sure it looks good, you know. And they seem to stay pretty out of it creatively.
Yeah, like they seem like HBO like seems to be sticking so far seems to generally stick to its roots of we make artsy shit. It's the home box office. Like it's stuff that I don't know. Like this
is prime television.
Yeah, like it's producing stuff like Euphoria, some smaller shows that you maybe not heard of, like Mosaic, or the Nick, like Steven Soderbergh TV shows. Did you even know Steven Soderbergh made TV shows? He's made multiple TV shows for HBO, and he keeps coming back. He's making movies just for HBO. So like HBO's just letting artists do their thing, and that seems to be working for them as well.
Yep. And then of course they get like the big Hollywood movies that WB produces in their first thing.
Yeah, we'll see how long that continues, because that was a whole
I know when it was like direct, like instead, like same day as theaters, that was the huge
director's
fuck. Yeah. Especially with Dune. I know that was a big deal.
Well, honestly though, I would not have seen Dune if I had to watch it in the theater.
I imagine it looked fantastic. I know Quinn did. I know Quinn's a huge Dune fan.
Yes.
I'm sure it looked great in IMAX, but man, do I need to be able to pause to take a piss every now and again, you know?
Yeah, no, I would not have watched Dune in a theater. So I'm really glad that was something I could watch at home.
Same.
But
I feel like we keep drifting away from Moon Knight because, like,
I mean, all we can always say about Moon Knight is it's good.
It's really good.
It's one of those things
we can talk about plot beats.
We
can talk about plot beats and stuff, but I feel like that does kind of do it a bit of a disservice.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I find the industry interesting too. I don't know.
Same.
Chat, do you find the industry as interesting as we do? We're
would you like us to just talk about the plot points and say, what did you think when Ethan Hawke killed this guy? And
yeah, I don't know, because like we care partially because like this is an industry we want to break into a bit. Like we want to make entertainment not just for YouTube, so like we're paying attention.
Yeah.
But I don't like with Moon Knight also. It's just the thing where it's just I don't have much negative to say about Moon Knight. It's just a solid show, honestly.
Yeah, it's really good. I like
the ending feels a little rushed.
A touch, but and it has that like post-credit sting where it's like, I was wondering what they were going to do with the post-credit sting, honestly. Like,
I like that it was just a hook for the next season.
Same, because they easily could have like been like well, Doctor Strange shows up, where am I now? Kind of thing. It's like, it's Doctor Strange in theater Friday.
Yeah, I would have rolled my eyes so hard. If Doctor Strange were in the fucking teaser, because I'm tired of that shit. Remember how No Way Home ended with a fucking trailer for Doctor Strange 2? And I was like, I don't give a fuck.
That was like the biggest kick in, like that was kind of a kick in the balls. It's like, you wait around to the post credits like, oh, Doctor Strange.
I can watch a trailer on YouTube. I don't.
It's like, I fucking know, dude. Like, yeah, we know that movie's coming.
I prefer like the fucking joke with Captain America and Homecoming.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take a joke over a trailer.
I would have taken like, Peter just kind of like sitting in his room, and then like Miles Morales from Enter the Spider-Verse actually zaps in there. Oh shit, sorry. Just like zaps out through another hole. I would have taken that. I think that would have been hysterical.
Absolutely taken a joke or something.
Yeah.
Like, what if he were played by Donald Glover?
Oh man,
for a split second and then leaves?
I think it's heavily implied that Donald Glover is the Prowler.
Oh, straight up said.
Yeah, said.
Yeah, like straight up confirmed he's the Prowler, which I'd love to see him show up again.
Yeah, no,
I was hoping that would be like a running thread throughout the movies.
Like he just keeps showing up, just being a bit better at crime, but then just keeps getting like knocked down.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was hoping. Like he just show up with like more and more gear, and like in every single movie at some point. But whatever. Yeah.
Maybe still potential for that, I suppose, if they want to actually do the Miles Morales angle.
Yeah, but like talking about the entertainment and things, I'll go back to I find it so refreshing that this show is just its own self-contained thing.
Yes.
Because I'm not as high on No Way Home as everyone else was. I was in the review.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I enjoyed it. It's a fun movie. That's kind of all it is for me. And I know for some people that's fine. It's just I don't know. I want to get a little bit more. I want to feel like I'm more connected to the characters, and I feel like after No Way Home, I'm less connected to the characters than I was. Partially because of the mind wipe stuff. That always hurts my investment.
Yeah.
And partially just because this version of Peter Parker is now defined by other versions of Peter Parker.
That is a bit weird.
Sucks.
That's a bit weird.
Like, and all these versions of these villains, these iconic villains, that he's first met them as someone else's movie's villains. And that like this multiverse stuff, I think, actively robs these stories of some power.
Yeah, like you can't get an Oscorp now and have it like feel.
He'll know what's up. Like It's like, okay, well that's kind of boring now.
I don't know about this, and I don't know about this Harry Osborn, who apparently I've been friends with for a while.
Yeah, I'd love to see an Oscorp, and like, because Norman Osborn is an incredibly powerful and interesting figure in the Marvel comics. But now, if he shows up, we've seen a different Norman Osborn before.
Yeah, it makes you wonder like how they're going to deal with this, because obviously Disney heavily laments the fact that they didn't have Spider-Man in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like, oh yeah, no, we could have set up Oscorp a while ago. We could have done all this other stuff, but now it's like, well, fuck.
And they're so they're so pissy about it that the deal with Sony nearly tanked. It seems like I read some interviews from the writers when it comes to No Way Home. We're just talking about No Way Home now, but I saw some interviews with the writers, and they were talking about how this movie was going to happen regardless, like the multiverse movie, but they were thinking about holding it off till the next one. But then at some point they're like, well, let's just do it now, which leads me to believe that this was a Sony thing. Sony wanted a celebration of their movies.
Sony wanted a celebration of their movies in a way to try to make their Venom and Morbius canon somehow.
I also think the producers, they've kind of discussed this. Their ego took a hit by going to Disney, by accepting a deal from Disney. It's to have them essentially make their character popular.
Right.
That bummed them out, so they wanted a giant celebration of what they did with the characters in the Disney movies. I think that was part of the deal with making more Spider-Man movies in the MCU. Was you need to celebrate our versions of the characters, and then we'll be more amenable. Like that's why Avi Arad is given like a whole bunch of there's a whole bit about him in the credits. Amy Pascal's name shows up a few times, including her own production company, Pascal Pictures. It just felt like a deal where there were some bruised egos, and that movie was a salvo.
Salve.
Yeah, salve to help with that.
Right.
And that's not a great basis for a film, honestly.
It was a fun movie.
Again, it was fun. It had lots of audience-pleasing moments.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for the nostalgia-riddled piece of media that it was.
Yeah, I'm really hoping the next batch of superhero films after Doctor Strange 2 end up being about the individual characters and not about who's the big guest star in this movie, who's the big cameo.
The big problem they've run, the huge, massive elephant in the room problem that they've run into is the original, from Iron Man to Endgame, they have set up these massive shoes that they need to try to fill, and I don't think they're really going to be able to. It feels like you're going from the golden age of comics to the silver age of comics, and you're gonna need some time. And I don't know if this whole multiverse arc that they're dealing with is going to end in a great reset, but
I don't know. It feels like a mistake to try and do another giant event.
Right.
Clearly they are doing Secret Invasion stuff. I thought that was going to be the event, something smaller, more personal. That made sense to me.
But now it feels like there's going to be a bunch of things going on at the same time.
They're doing Secret Invasion alongside a giant multiverse arc, and I'm just like, is that what we need right now? Because the thing is,
it does feel very comic book, if I'm going to be honest, where a bunch of stuff does happen at the same time, but then you're getting oh my god, what string do you follow if you care to follow progress?
And it's the stuff that keeps me from reading comic books anymore. The events constantly happening. That ruined comic books for me.
That's why I buy a lot of anthology comics.
Yeah, because at a certain point, if you're invested in one book, it'll get interrupted for a fucking event every 2 fucking years, and that's bad for stories. It's bad to have these industry studio mandated everybody's and this happened with Doctor Strange, where the movie that Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill wanted to make got sidelined for in my opinion, this is conjecture, but
Right.
but they Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill were working on this film, Doctor Strange 2, and then they stopped.
Yeah, I heard it was going to be much more like Eldritch kind of thing. Like,
yeah, because they were going to make their
Lovecraftian.
But then they had all this multiverse stuff they had to deal with and all these cameos. It seems like they weren't really interested in making a movie filled with other people's characters.
Right.
And I don't blame them. And the movie that they did end up making, The Black Phone, looks pretty neat.
It does.
Also starring Ethan Hawke.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a friend, again, a Texas guy. Derrickson and Cargill are from Austin. Yeah, it's just the thing where I'm seeing the problems of comic books start to crop up in these comic book movies.
I think a lot of people are.
And I really hope that doesn't continue. I hope they start to recognize, no, this is what people abandoned comics from.
I remember reading like an author's kind of like run on Wolverine. Like Logan's one of my favorite characters, and I'm reading through, and then like one of the chapters ends, you flip over, it's like, then the events of House of M happens. Yeah. And then you like read this like thing like, this is what happened, blah 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 blah, and then it's like the story has changed dramatically. It's like, okie dokie.
Yeah, and I don't know, like their old method was getting stale very quickly. I get that, but I don't know, like I don't think the solution is to just make every movie completely interconnected with everything else.
Yeah.
To me, that's hurting my own investment, and that's reminding me of the reason why I stopped reading comics. That's a bit of a bummer for me. But Moon Knight is not like that, so maybe there's some hope for the future of like more self-contained, interesting stories in their own right.
I think that's what was so refreshing about, Everything Everywhere All at Once and going to see the Northman and stuff like that.
Thing.
They're their own stories that I don't need to worry about any continuation on.
Yeah, they're self-contained. They just tell a story, and they tell the story well. Yeah, like Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho as well. Like,
yes.
A nice self-contained story. He told one story. He doesn't really make sequels.
Yeah, I don't think it's his best work, but it is a solid movie.
Yeah, I liked it. Like, it was fun. Like, and like whenever I hear about Edgar Wright maybe making a Baby Driver 2, I'm like, I kind of want to see him just make another new thing. I like when he makes new things.
Yeah. Edgar Wright's one of my favorite directors out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I emulate the man, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. That might be the conversation. I'm not sure.
Very well could be. I mean, because all we have next is Multiverse of Madness, which is coming out this weekend. Yeah. I'm gonna see it. I'm honestly looking forward to it. I guess like a softball end capper question. Raimi almost always has Bruce Campbell show up somewhere in his movies.
He will absolutely be in this movie.
Yeah. Where do you? In what context do you think he'll show up? Because I have a theory.
I mean, the easy answer is he shows up briefly as Mysterio.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Like as a shout to what he was gonna do. The more interesting and maybe probably more likely answer is either he shows up as a not quite Ash, but essentially Ash character for a split second.
Just shows up and like, what the? Oh, where'd you take me this time? Looks at a book and just jumps in a portal.
Yeah, or he shows up as some like human-looking embodiment of some sort of eldritch being that's very snarky and silly for a second. That Doctor Strange has to have a conversation with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too shocked if he did voice something like Shuma Gorath or something like that, where it's just like this character that's obviously not going to be sticking around, even though Shuma Gorath is very powerful in terms of the multiverse. But
or he's a member of the Illuminati that is.
Oh, maybe. Nice. Yeah, maybe he's another universe's Tony Stark.
They'll probably kill him off or something.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I think it'll be a fun movie regardless. Yeah. But yeah, Moon Knight, solid.
Yeah, solid show. I liked it, and it's doing things that are counter to what's starting to aggravate or I guess tire me out on the MCU stuff. So it's nice to get a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, but hey, that's two guys' opinions.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Let us know, leave comments, or if you're here in the live chat over on twitch.tv/stream4star, where we do this live every other Wednesday. Happy to have you here, and we'll be with you in the post show in a moment. But until then, hope you're all staying happy and healthy out there. And thank you for tuning in to the Talkcast Podshow.